We are constantly performing, not just on stage या फिर किसी job interview में, but every single day. Especially on social media. Here every photo, every post is well curated for our feed. We are always aware of the audience. But there is something interesting and a bit worrying about how a gender plays into this role. But there is something interesting and a bit worrying about how a gender plays into this role. Research shows that young audience की social media usage neutral नहीं है. For women and girls, it's often staged as relational performance. They basically post to engage bonds, seek validation, and build a social capital onto it. The performance is basically about being connected, but for men, the rules are a bit different. Masculinity online shaped as an instrumental performance, using social media as a tool, a stage to project an image, achieving a goal, win a certain kind of respect. It's never about the connection. It's always about proving something, which you are not, most of the time. And this is where the idea of a performative male comes. The guy who is always onto something, always curating image that scream confidence, dominance and success. The kind of person who might even know that they are performing until the mask slips. It's easy to laugh at a cliche, whether it's the gym selfie or some sport, the motivational quotes, the flexed lifestyle shots. But this performance is not cringe, it's exhausting, and behind it often lies something much heavier: loneliness, the fear of not being enough, the pressure to constantly measure up to an impossible standard. So why do men feel the need to perform this way? What is this pressure really doing to us? And what would life look like if we dropped the act and showed up as our actual selves? That's what we are diving into today. The performative male. It is a guy whose personality, interests, actions are shaped primarily to be seen rather to be. It's about performance, not genuine self-expression. The hobbies, the outfits, the way they act, they are all curated for a certain kind of audience or feed. In these recent trends, you have seen the crop top, baggy jeans, tote bag, 4 a.m. cold showers, matcha tea, photo dump of them holding feminine literature as if Sean Soho personally texted them. The point is not they are inherently bad, they are just overconsumed. The issue when their whole personality is reverse engineered for social validation. People lose sense of self in that process. Fashion trend in this space are not just about style, they are about broadcasting a character. The crop top says I am subverting masculinity, the baggy trouser says I am effortless but still cool to pull off. It's a constant audition of the guy who gets it. The performative male is not dressing for comfort. They are just performing for the algorithm and for curated audience. The clothes become props and self becomes a brand. There's this thing that fashion is supposed to be self-expression. But when it's purely performative, it's not about expressing yourself. It's about expressing what people want to see. In philosophy, there's a difference between being and appearing. The performative male lives almost entirely in appearing. Every gesture is calculated to send a signal. I am sensitive but not too soft. I am stylish but in a way that still looks accidental. I read, but not the book you would expect. When every choice is made to be seen and you under all becomes blurry. The clothes, the books, the drinks, the routine, they stop reflecting who you are and start dictating how you are allowed to be. And when the cameras turn off, you are left with what exactly? Performative masculinity is not random, it's a response. Men are just not copying trends, they are chasing identity validation. कभी कभी हमें लगता है कि हमारी sense of self incomplete है. That's why we display symbol of fashion, gym, sports. We are always trying to prove ourselves. Symbolic self-completion theory says people adopt visible cues tied to the ideal self, like a matcha latte or a feminist book, to signal who they want to be, not always who they are. Research on precarious manhood shows masculinity is treated as something fragile. It must be demonstrated and can be easily lost. Men who strongly believe in their manhood must be earned show higher stress responses when it questions. Think of it like a resource curse theory. In economics, nations rich in oil often end up weaker because they depend on that easy wealth instead of building real strength. Performative masculinity works the same way. Instead of developing depth, values, skills, authenticity, men exploit the easy resources of trends. Crop tops, matcha teas, baggy trousers, tote bags, aesthetic books. It's quick validation, but no real foundation. And just like the oil runs out, trends expire, leaving you more fragile than before. We are living in this attention economy and validation is the currency. One study found that frequent posting, especially by men, is often judged as needy. Social media users attributes negative motives like attention seeking and narcissism to frequent male posters. This creates a vicious cycle. Post to get seen, get judged as performing, post more to validate and lose authenticity. A study by the Indian Psychiatric Society found that 20% of Indian men suffer from loneliness, with urban areas reaching nearly 45%. In a country overflowing with people, urban Gen Z feels fundamentally disconnected. Despite buzzing cities and constant online presence, emotional voids persists. Indian traditional masculinity discourages emotional expressions, leading men to suppress vulnerability instead of sharing it. Sociologist Pranay Agarwal notes that admitting loneliness is often equated with weakness, reinforcing emotional suppression. With nuclear families and work-driven migration on the rise, men are losing the integrated support systems that once softened these feelings. More screen time doesn't mean more connection. Indian men now spend more time on media and less actually socializing. Social participation dropped from 91.4% to 89.8% over 5 years, while time on digital media increased. Clinical psychology research confirmed that heavy social media use triggers perceived isolation. Young adults use social media for validation, but often feel lonelier, not more connected. This FOMO leads to insecurity, compels more performative behavior, and deepens emotional emptiness when the screens are full. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. Researchers warn that loneliness can fuel heart disease, dementia, weakened immunity, and other serious health problems. In men specifically, solitary living can elevate more mental stress, health risks, impair sleep, and increases the chance of self-destructive behaviors. When the real connection is hard, social climbs become more easier. If you are isolated, clothing becomes the armor, captions becomes the dialogue, and the well-curated post become the cries for validation. But the sad result is you are never seen. और यहाँ आती है loneliness. If loneliness is the fuel for performance, authenticity is the antidote. Because the real strength of a man doesn't come from what he projects outward. It comes from what he is willing to embrace inward. Research by Breen Brown shows that vulnerability, once seen as weakness, is the root of courage and trust. In Indian contexts, men who openly share emotional struggles through support groups, therapy, or even friendships report higher resilience and stronger social bonds. Depth over display. Instead of chasing every trend or status signal, authenticity means investigating things that lasts. Skills, relationships, and values. Psychologists note that men with intrinsic goals, which is growth, connection, contribution, have higher life satisfaction than those who focused on extrinsic goals, which is status, image, possessions. See, male friendships in India are often shallow, centered on banter. There is no depth. But authentic masculinity is a collaboration, not hierarchy. Studies in organizational psychology shows that workplaces where men shift is competitive posturing to cooperative leadership see higher trust, lower burnout, and greater productivity. Integrity over image. An authentic man isn't flawless. He is consistent. He aligns what he says with what he does. In a long run, integrity attracts respect far more than performative status symbols. India is facing a youth loneliness epidemic. Performance culture only accelerates it. A generation of men chasing applause risks losing connection, depth, and meaning. But by embracing authenticity, men don't just help themselves, they reshape the culture. I have faced these things in my real life. Back in the school, back in college, male friendship are not that reliable. The bond we see in girls is way more different than the bond we see in boys. Some friendship in boys might last and some might become very weird. Maybe the challenge of our time is not becoming the man everyone sees, but becoming the man who can sit with himself without the performance, without the applause, without the performance, without the applause, and still feel the whole. And that's not weakness, that's the liberation. Well, this is a fashion educational channel. I don't know why I talked about this, but I guess it was important. People are just losing the self of self. I think कभी कभी लोगों को अपने साथ बैठना चाहिए और सोचना चाहिए कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं और वो कहाँ जाना चाहते हैं. It's just so weird what people do दूसरों को देख के कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं. इससे वैलिडेशन मिल रहा है तो मैं भी ये करके देखता हूँ. I don't think so वहाँ से कहीं लोग जाने वाले हैं. As I talked about, this is not a weakness, that's liberation when we overcome this. Now that was it for the video. Hope you understood what I tried to say. If you like the video, you may subscribe or leave a like, and please do comment about the challenges you face in your masculine journey. तक के लिए bye. Wear good stuff.